Hi Reem, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good too. Let's start with an introduction. Can you please tell me a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So, Reem Al Mosabbeh, I wear different hats in different sectors and areas. I love scaling up startups in the field of fintech and technology with like-minded people. I would say also startups, investments, youth, community building are all the places that I've built in. In addition to this, my background is in chemical engineering and I am a serial entrepreneur. I run companies within also the technology field. One is called Retech IT Solutions, ESOL, and then we have the community building platform, which is Unipreneur that you're aware of. And my main vision, I would say, is to create this triple helix ecosystem here in the UAE that connects the youth, the startups, and the industry to foster the next generation of leaders and change makers.
Interesting to know how you came from being an engineering student to start your startup in tech and social industry. How did you navigate, how did you start on this journey as a chemical engineering student with no business background?
Yeah, so this is a very good question. Let's go a few steps back. I started my journey in entrepreneurship back at university, and back then I hated business, to be honest with you, and I despised something called economics. And I always used to, put on my sister because she's a business major and I'm a science major. That I don't know what you guys are doing. We're the scientists. We're the ones who are building and solving problems and so on. Until one day, I remember I received an email from my university, Science Innovation Park, that there's this incubation program. Submit your idea, and then you're accepted. So I submitted. Just going into the oblivion of not knowing what exactly what exactly is hidden. And since then, I never looked back. It opened like a totally different page in my life. And I believe because of the people that I meet, the change makers, and the mindset that it allowed me to cultivate is what made me further push and enhance my passion in entrepreneurship. So, and that's the beauty of being an entrepreneur. You don't need to have a certain degree to succeed in a certain field. You can be an engineer and do something, for example, in healthcare, for example. As a chemical engineer, I am doing stuff in fintech, in technology. We're also tapping into blockchain and data analysis. So we have this flexible mindset that we're always open and eager to learn.
It's interesting how things can take a huge turn in your life out of nothing sometimes.
Yes.
Out of the most unexpected ways as well. You mentioned that, to succeed as an entrepreneur, there's the environment that you surrounded yourself. But in your definition, what is this definition of success?
Definition of success. This is a very subjective matter, and because success is not constant. I would say it differs from a person to another. On, for example, success to person A might be riding a certain car or having this amount in a bag and so on. But for me, I believe success is the mindset that I managed to cultivate throughout my humble journey in entrepreneurship. It made me very resilient, focused, and motivated to push more and just not being afraid of what the world is going to offer for me. And I think that's what success for me. In addition to this, I would like to share a short story. So a good friend of mine, a very wise friend of mine, we opened a similar topic where we were negotiating about success, purpose of life, and so on. And he told me I define success by the number of messages that I received during my birthday and the customized messages. And I was like, I was struck, like, why the number of messages that you get during your birthday? And he told me that those messages, those are affirmations that I have impacted that person. For that person to take his time and to send me that customized message, it means I have impacted him in a certain way. So that certain affirmation is very important for him. And this is how he defines success, by the way he impacts others. So I think also that changed my perspective. And I would look at success in different ways, from having a strong mindset and also by impacting others and giving and serving back.
Taking a step back, you mentioned these qualities that an entrepreneur has.
Yeah.
Resilience, for example, and that's a word I always listen from, a lot of people, resilience.
Yes.
And that's something that's very common through leaders, entrepreneurs, successful people, whatever definition of success is. And although looking at the opposite end of success, failure, does that mean that a person who's not resilient, does that mean that a person is a failure then?
No, certainly not. The paradox of success is built upon failure. And if you don't embrace failure, then you will never become a successful person. As simple as that. So the community that I surrounded myself with, the support group that I have, my mentors and so on, allowed me to look at failures and challenges as opportunities. And I think that's very critical, regardless if you're an entrepreneur or not. You need to look at challenges and failures. I'm not going to call them failures. They're just like, another hurdle in life in which God served you for you to learn a lesson and step ahead of what has been given to reach that certain milestone that you want to have.
You mentioned you have surrounded yourself with mentors and people who uplift you with the same mindset. Do you think it's a necessity for a person to succeed to have this environment around them?
Yes, I will always emphasize on the importance of surrounding yourself with the right people. There is this quote that says, "Tell me your friends and I tell you who you are." So it's as simple as that. If you apply this in your life on a daily basis, that's how it's gonna affect you in a tremendous manner. So having the support group, whether they're mentors, coaches, co-creators, your friends, your family, is very critical to support you through this journey. I'm going to be a bit biased, but as an entrepreneur, this is a very lonely journey and it requires a lot of sacrifice. So whatever we hear, it's overly glamorous, I'll be honest with you. So you need people who've been there, who are walking in your shoes and who understand how they can guide you and support you throughout the journey.
It's interesting that you mentioned the effect of surrounding yourself with the right people.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that you were into a tech startup, and I know that's a very male-dominated industry, and we had this conversation about this before.
Yeah.
And being an Emirati, not just an Emirati, a female in such a environment that is male-dominated, how does one start? How does one navigate through this environment, and where does one begin to see how can I voice my opinion?
For sure, as any regular entrepreneur, we go through challenges on a daily basis. Every day is a challenge that I have this notebook where I literally write each and every single task, a journal that I need to finish by the end of the day. And before I sleep, I open my journal and I go through it and make sure that did I finish this? If I did not finish this, then how can I block some time for the next day to further finish my task? So when we go back to the challenges as a female entrepreneur, which I hate the term, I'll be honest with you, because nowadays there should be no segregation between a male and a female entrepreneur. It's just an entrepreneur, a human being who's out there with a huge risk appetite. That's what I would like to say. But if we look back, proving myself against the odds, difficult, I would say, especially with my background in chemical engineering. So I had to prove myself. Am I capable as an engineer to tap into this unknown world of technology and fintech? So knocking into doors to gain the credibility was one challenge. Another thing that I always also speak about is as a woman in this field, and also my co-founders being males and most of the people that I interact with, you need to adopt, sometimes you see yourself adopting a stereotypical male behavior in terms of your leadership style, being very competitive, being very harsh. And finding my inner voice and finding the way where I can balance my feminism, okay, with what I deal with on daily basis has been a struggle. But alhamdulillah, having also going back to the support group of other female powerful entrepreneurs who really helped me and mentored me throughout the journey.
I love the fact that you started with saying your credibility came from your skills, not as a woman, or you didn't have to prove yourself as a woman that I can do it, but your credibility came from, okay, I'm an engineering student, but I have to prove to you that I'm also a good businesswoman. And I love the fact that you touched upon it in such a way, it's a completely different mindset if you think about it. You're not blaming others that, oh, I'm a woman, so, you are actually giving your credibility to your skills, and that's a good starting point. I honestly believe that. What would you advise to someone who would see this as a very big obstacle, like, I understand your mindset is not like that, but there is people who have this mindset of, what, I might be a bit lacking because I'm a female entrepreneur in a male dominated environment.
Yeah. But before that, let me touch base on a story that I shared with you prior, but my co-founder currently at Retech Solutions. So this person I met during my early stages in my journey in entrepreneurship. So when I met him, I remember he told me this one phrase. He's like, I'm going to push you off the cliff. I'll see you drown. And until you're literally off on the verge, that's where I'm going to lend my hand and help you. Back then, it held me back, and I was struck, like, why is he telling me such a tough love advice? And throughout the journey of, tackling and fighting through the ups and downs of being an entrepreneur within this field of technology, especially fintech, I realized the importance of his words and how they were a catalyst, I would say, to also touch upon, cultivated this mindset of being resilient and powerful. So I think having the support group, as I told you, is very important, number one. And based on the support group, you can easily navigate through to leverage on your existing network and to bring the best for your self-development and for your career growth.
Reem, tell me an incident that you were on almost the verge of drowning in the scenario that you told me, the advice that you got.
So one thing that they don't tell you about startups, one of the hardest stuff is firing someone. That's not an easy thing. We used to hear it, on social media, people getting laid off and so on. But when you do it, when you're literally sitting on this table with the person in front of you and you're trying to explain why is, for instance, certain KPIs are not being met and results, even though, for example, that person is your friend and you know him that he can deliver, but a business is business at the end of the day. So this was quite tough. And I think these kind of incidents teaches you how to adapt, to be better in terms of understanding others, and in terms of also meeting middle way between leveraging your existing business and at the same time not compromising what the other person is bringing on the table. In addition to this, I would say team conflict. So you're gonna learn a lot how to manage between your team members, your co-founders, and starting a business is like what it feels like to start a family, to be honest with you. Responsibilities, maintaining the relationship, making sure everyone is happy, payroll is going on, people are being fed. So all of these stuff, but I would say also it's one of the most rewarding experiences for anyone who's interested to enter this field and just fight through.
Give me an example on a team conflict that you went through.
There are different types of team conflicts. For example, okay, I'm going to share this story and I'll be frank with you. A team conflict between me and my co-founder. Agreeing, for example, if this partner fits our category and criteria of selected clients or not. So one day I remember we were working on this big development project, and throughout different milestones of development, the client himself, their project manager, was being a bit disrespectful towards one of our project managers from Retech side. And okay, so I had to brush it off and interfere and see how we can continue the project, because it's very important, to the point where my co-founder had to step in, okay, and the same conflict started also to arise. It began to heat up. So I had, as a CEO, I was literally stuck in the middle of cutting down the project for the sake of the disrespect that my co-founder has faced, or letting everything go by smoothly, go with the flow and just continue the project. And I decided to cut off the project because sticking to my values in terms of respect that we circulate among the team and the culture that we're trying to leverage on, is more important compared to the monetary aspect that we're gonna get because of that certain client. And there's more also to bring on board. So it was a very tough decision, but at the same time, on a long run, I would say it has strengthened our relationship between me and my co-founder.
It's nice how a negative situation turned out to be positive in the long run. And it's quite interesting because a lot of people, when they are in a state of struggle, in an experience where they're going through a hard phase in their life, they think it's the end of the world.
Yeah.
Especially as an entrepreneur, like every single day I'm like, okay, it's the end of the world. I'm never gonna go to the next step. But alhamdulillah, every day there's a new blessing that shows up. There's a new opportunity that
everything is a hidden blessing, as you mentioned. To be frank with you, sometimes you start to realize why 99% of the other population decide to stick with their job, that they're happy and fine with it. Like there are many times where I just look back and I was like, maybe if I chose the easy path, I'll be happy and married by now with my kids and living, the smooth life that everyone wants to achieve. But then, alhamdulillah, I'm very grateful for each and every single challenge that I have encountered and for the great people that I met throughout. And I think it's the time also to give back from my humble experience and help other early stage entrepreneurs.
When you say an easy path, every path I think has its own struggles and ups and downs, and especially if someone was to go to a 9-to-5 job, has their own struggles. I'm sure your employees have those struggles as well. So the definition of success and what comes easy is very
vague, I would say.
Vague, exactly. Like a lot of people who might be at a later stage might be like, why are you struggling so much with an entrepreneur? Like, it's so easy, connect this, connect that, but that's not easy anymore. The world is on such a high way that it's so fast paced. Things like the way you sell the things have changed. So obviously you have to change as an entrepreneur and develop every single day, especially in your area, which is fintech.
Yes.
It's so fast paced.
Exactly. And you need to stay up to date with what's going on and keep your competitive analysis up to date.
Was that a skill or was that something that you had to learn?
Everything in entrepreneurship, building a startup, you're going to learn throughout the journey. A book that speaks about Startups 101 is totally different with what you're going to face in real life. So going also back from the different incubation programs that I joined and the different accelerator programs, they do enhance your competence. They do teach you different skills, whether finance and marketing, but then implementation and execution is a totally different thing. So you're out there on your own with your team trying to figure out and build the blocks by yourself.
As a serial entrepreneur, where do you think it kind of narrows down? To what does it narrow down? To starting a startup? Where does it narrow down as a serial entrepreneur? I understand for fintech, there's a way that you start, and for a social startup, you have to go through a certain way. But it obviously narrow down to something, right? What do you think that is? How can one start from that narrow path and then, see where is my direction?
Right. That's a very good question. And thinking about it, whenever I start any startup or a joint venture, I always make sure that they feed into one another. I'm not going to start something in a totally different field that's not going to benefit a startup in a certain domain or a sector. So for example, at Retech is an IT software house. We help SME startups with anything related to the digital transformation solutions. ESOL is also in the technology field, focusing on fintech, data analysis, and so on. So I can get resources from Retech to help build my startup at ESOL and so on, and vice versa. Unipreneur, for instance, it's more related to community and so on, because what I built at Retech and ESOL are the team and the resources that can also benefit and give back to the community, which is Unipreneur. So you can see that it's like a connecting triangle where everyone benefits from the other. It's a win-win situation. At the end of the road, I would not say it's gonna narrow into a certain direction, because you can have it all. Today I might be doing this, tomorrow I might jump into real estate, who knows? And that's the beauty of entrepreneurship. We're literally, yes, the freedom and the ability to wear different hats, because you're super excited and you have this energy out of nowhere that you really want to invest and channel this energy into something, and and see where it takes you. As I mentioned, our risk our appetite for risk is quite huge, I would say, and that's what keeps us pushing and waking up every morning with the motivation and the purpose that, yes, today I have to do this, I have to deliver this, and I'm very excited to tackle all the challenges.